least the 4-star, 3-star guys from our area who are doing good. Just, I don't want to say Jake Fromm, but the Jake Fromms, the AJ McCarrons, the John Parker Wilsons, like, you can win that way. Georgia and Alabama and LSU, even for that matter, have been able to win a different way than just about everybody else in college football can win. So Matt and I have had this debate where I'm like, I don't think Heupel and Tennessee are more concerned about Georgia with Dylan Raiola or a 5-star quarterback, because I think it's going to be hard to see a quarterback in the next couple years here at UGA to have a better all-around season than what Stetson and Monken did this past year. I'm not as concerned. I don't see a scenario with how the best of Monken and Stet last year is going to be really hard to top with whatever Georgia throws out, whoever's under center the next couple of years. I'm not more concerned about that. I'm concerned if Tennessee is never able to stop Georgia in the trenches. Like, if that never changes and Tennessee's ever able to evolve there, that's what ultimately will define this rivalry between the two. It's not the 5-star quarterback. Do you agree with that sentiment, or do you think Raiola or Tennessee unlocking these higher end, the Vandegriffs, whoever, like the 5-star guys from wherever, open up this thing even more where like it separates them from the field more? Or do you think it really doesn't even move the needle? Because it kind of speaks to what you're talking about with Tennessee, with just it doesn't matter who's under center, if it's a 5-star Nico or it's a 3-star Gadsden Moore or whoever.
I think it's an interesting question because, like, I mean, like,
is that fair? I'm not picking on Georgia. I think that's
no. It's totally fair. I mean, like, I've had this theory for a while now that, like, Saban kind of gave away what made Alabama dominant when he decided to chase all the sexy offensive players. Like going down that path of, you know, having Tua go bombs away to Ruggs and Judy and Devontae Smith and all of those guys. Like, yes, it made Alabama all of a sudden a lot more fun to watch, but it also created variance that wasn't there before because it created more possessions in games. And, you know, like, all of a sudden Alabama was willing to play a game in the 40s like they did against Burrow and LSU in 2019, whereas they never were before. And I think, like, that's the philosophical crossroads that the Raiola signing, I think, creates for Kirby. And I think that, like, he'll probably manage it better because, A, he was there when that sort of started at Bama. But, like, under Kiffin, you know, like, they still, like, it created a lot of friction, but, like, Saban still kept laying on a leash to where it was like, no, like, Bo Scarborough is going to touch the ball 20 times in this football game, or I am going to, like, verbally assault you on national television 3 times a half, which, you know, would happen anyways. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is I think Georgia, the identity of the program is physicality at the line of scrimmage, right? And I think it has to stay that way. But I do think, like, Monken was just so good at creating matchups for Georgia that, like, it does feel like what you're saying. Like yeah, like, it is going to be hard to top the efficiency that Georgia showed last year because they were extremely efficient. But they weren't really an overly explosive offense. I mean, they didn't have I don't think they had a reception by a receiver over 30 yards for like an 8-week stretch at one point in the season. Like, there was Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington, and everything went through those 2 tight ends.
Because Arian Smith was basically unavailable all year.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, he came back for that Tennessee game and had a pretty significant catch, I think, in that first quarter.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Great. Move on.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, I guess what I'm saying is just that Ohio State game, right? Like, Georgia was – it felt like Georgia was cooked because, like, it felt like, yes, like, Georgia can move the ball on these guys all night, but they're not finishing drives in the red zone. And that, you know, like, that didn't feel like it was going to all of a sudden change late in that game. And then, you know, Arian Smith was there, to blow past this defender and the guy's feet get tangled, and all of a sudden you have a 75-yard quick strike touchdown that changes the math, right? Like all of a sudden it's like, okay, now there's enough possessions in this football game for Georgia to actually potentially do something here, which they went on to do. But with Raiola, you're going to get a vertical passing game, or you're going to at least have the potential for a vertical passing game like you've never ever seen at Georgia, I think, or at least that you haven't seen since Stafford. I am really curious to see like how the receiving prospects work out. Like Georgia's in on Ryan Wingo, who I think Tennessee's also in on, 5-star receiver. Like Georgia's in on like 5-star receivers in this class, and just had Jeremiah Smith on.
It seems
campus.
like Matthews is more realistic for Tennessee than Wingo.
I feel that way. Yeah. I think that's. I think he's going to kind of maybe go down as like the one who got away out of this 2024 class in the state of Georgia, which is absolutely sick. Like this 2024 class in Georgia.
I think y'all will be okay. I think
unreal.
Georgia will be all right.
No, I know they will, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like, they'll have to figure out how to balance that, and I think that like probably the way you balance it is against the Missouris of the world and the South Carolinas of the world. You go out there and you spread shit out and like you bomb it away and you get dudes big highlight plays and you get them touchdowns, and then when it comes time for the college football playoff or whatever it is, like you go back to sort of that identity of like we're just gonna we're gonna Kirby death march this thing once we get up 10 points in the third quarter, like last year's Kentucky game. I mean Georgia. Dude, like they kind of did that shit on purpose. I'm sorry. Like they did. Like it was like one of these things of we don't like how we've ran the ball for the last few weeks, and we're playing a team that's, very physical at the line of scrimmage, and they like to run the ball. They like to, beat people up on the defensive front. They think they can stop the run. So like we're going to go out and we're going to have a game like this because we think we're going to need that skill somewhere down the line. And I think that's what, under Monken, Georgia's MO has been, we're going to find out whatever your defense doesn't like to do, and we're going to make you do that thing. And that's really been the offensive identity more than anything. And as like an analyst, it was really fun to cover because I could usually sit down and watch a few games of Kentucky or Missouri or whoever and be like, there's the 2 or 3 weaknesses. And then you could write up an article to publish on Thursday or Friday and say like, hey, these are the spots where Georgia's going to probably go after, and even sometimes get as specific as like, yeah, like Lad McConkey's probably going to catch, like a touchdown out of the slot against this player. And Monken would do it because it was just like this egoless kind of system that he ran where it was like, well, that looks effective, so we're going to do it. And there was never this investment in like, oh, like we run the Heupel offense, or we run the run and shoot like Spurrier or whatever. It's like no, like we run whatever's going to work today. And I think that as long as Georgia keeps doing that, they'll be fine. But I do think that Raiola is talented enough to where there is going to be a couple more things every Saturday that work than they did before. Just because, like, Stetson had a very good 2022, but, like, Georgia really struggled for a large part of the season with its deep passing game. Like, they were good at hitting,
Was that a personnel thing, though, or just...
I think so. I think partially personnel. I think that, there was like a weird stretch there where Lad McConkey had a case of like the yips and like dropped wide open touchdown passes. Like the Georgia-Florida game, I mean, like if Bowers doesn't go off in that game, it's probably very different. So I don't know. I think it'll be...
Well, let me ask you this about Raiola. Raiola. It's not Raiola. It's rye bread. Raiola.
Yeah, that's
we got to learn these names because we got Raiola down there in Athens, and you got Nico. What's your Iamaleava?
Iamaleava.
Ooh, not right, but you're getting closer.
What?
Maleava.
Iamaleava?
Yeah, Iamaleava.
I thought it was Nico Iamaleava.
No I.
Wow,
sorry.
dude.
See, that's the rye bread. You got Raiola on the brain.
That's not good.
It's easy though, because Nico is a fun name to chant, and it's gonna be like Tua. It's just Nico and Tua.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
it's just gonna be Nico. But
my favorite, my favorite college football thing, I think maybe like message board wise of the last like 5 years was the poster on the Alabama message board that asked if Tua and the coaching staff were struggling with the language barrier.
I remember that
in practices or whatever. Yeah, that was great. I'm sorry. Okay, real quick. So like Stetson Bennett last year on throws of 20+ yards, 68 attempts, only 41% completion, which isn't that bad. I think it's still higher than Hendon Hooker. But 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So, I mean, like 8 touchdowns, 6 picks, not that great. But everywhere else on the field, he had 19 touchdowns and 1 pick. But I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing, though, too. We haven't seen
Raiola.
Kirby play